Alright, looks like we're live. I'm going to go ahead and share the link in Twitter and on Discord as soon as I get it. Oh. Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, so finding levels on futures is very similar to finding levels on SPY or SPX. You go to the 4 hour, you go to the daily, you go to the weekly, you check where those closing prices are, where those solid holds are, and you can, when you use a horizontal line, just the right here, horizontal line, you will find it goes all the way back. I mean, you want it to go as far back as possible so you can see the history of that line and see exactly why that line is so strong that it supports something. So down here, the level that I want to hold, the channel looks messed up. It looks different than it does on the daily, but I'll go over that in a little bit. Over here you see the closing price of 28.74. So that is 10 points above where I'm calling for major support. And that level is right here in all this chop, right at the previous all-time high. And let's go to monthly. Looking for an 8-4. Not finding it, so could just be a daily level that looks solid on the bottom of the trend. But up here, previous all-time highs keeping us at resistance before we really break out. So I zoom into the daily. Got the 28.84 right here at the very bottom of the channel. The channel, of course, how I drew it, just use my channel tool, find a decent top, and link it to the highest top there. What I did here, you just got to kind of dial it in, Right there, use some closing prices. If it's harder, just go to this, the line chart, which is all closing prices, of course, and you can just line it up directly with that. It'll make it a lot easier to get that real crisp top, because that is what you want whenever you're trying to find a true channel. True channels can break in and out of it, and it's what we call a false breakout or breakdown. I feel like I'm frozen right now, but it could just be my mouse. Okay. Yep, just my mouse. Whoops. Okay. Anyways, so yes, closing prices, that is where it gets dialed in. Then you go back to candles, you can see the wicks outside, the wicks below, but you see this closing price right here. These are all inside the channel, if not needing a little bit of tweakage. Okay. Bring it up here. I actually brought it up here to this closing price, since this is the lowest wick before bounce. Like right there, lines it up with these wicks pretty good. Okay. And of course my channel looks different now. Okay. Perfect. Perfect enough for this 28.84, which is a level I found going to the 4 hour. right underneath all this consolidation, right here, right here, right here, didn't touch, and lifts off. So this is the bottom. I mean, this is what I'm calling the make or break pivot point, you know, before we say, hey, we're going downtrend. All these other levels, you know, I had before, but I spent the last 5 minutes before going live purposefully bringing them back so you could just see them, and I disappear them, and then I'll bring them back. Switch this to purple. Okay. 4 hour bottom here. 4 hour close was not a daily close. See? It's close. And this is 2892.25. And so far the low of the day is 2893.5. So very close. 1 point off. I mean, you can't ask for better results from that. I think that was closing. I'm just dumb. That's okay. Alright. So there's your bottom for now. And now we're trying to find this. If you just click right here, you'll see that these prices up here is where the top was. This is where we opened, right underneath the 2918.5 level. And now we're trying to find where we're possibly going to. Possibly going up to 2931.75 in the following couple days. I mean, the whole thing is starting to look like a descending wedge. A little bit. I mean, it might chop for, oh God, that's a few days. That's a couple weeks. It might chop there. I'm not sure. But you know, if you go right into the hourly, you see you had your inverse head and shoulders, similar to SPY, a little bit breakout. But if you look at the RSI, I mean, it was pretty clearly a rising wedge after the fact. Obviously, I didn't swing puts. I'm not a genius, and I didn't anticipate this drop, you know, or, you know, Trump tweeting. It happens, and who knows? My calls could be annihilated, or they could bounce back. We'll see. But this rising wedge here, I mean, it was just, it's too steep. This channel right here is too steep. I mean, you look at the weekly, the daily channel, and you see how relatively sideways that is. I mean, it's from 26.56 to 29.58. It's a 300-point move over the span of 4 months. So, I mean, that's, in an uptrend, that's not that bad, honestly. But you see the steepness of this channel. It's just bound to happen. In fact, okay, this is how you find your channel top. The chop top, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a name for it yet. I'm sure I'll think of something stupid and clever. Okay, alright. Go into the 4 hour. Easier to plot points on a lower time frame. Okay. So there's a lot of lines going on here. I hope it's not losing you guys. This is the make or break pivot point, 2884, at least for now, because this channel is ever rising. So if it ever breaks below this channel and closes on a daily, and the next day confirms it, then you can start saying, okay, it's time for a big pullback or a downtrend. So you can start saying that, but you can't confirm it, you know, until the weekly, until the monthly. It's just a whole process. You need to just take it step by step. 4 hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, weekly. Just have your mind on all these levels, and don't, you know, it's just take it easy. Don't say, whoa, we're down 1.7%. Must be time for a sell-off. Just relax. I have calls, and how do you think I feel? I'm like, they could be dead, they could be fine. We'll see. I can't sell my calls until 14 hours from now, so it's no use freaking out about it. That's how I think about it anyways. If you're going to spend the next 14 hours in agony, not sleeping and all that, then go ahead. I'm not going to. Alright, back to the video. So the chop channel. Diagonal points, link it to a top, got a top, and here we go. Down into the hourly, looking for levels to bounce. Because obviously we didn't just bounce right above the 29.18 or else that would have just been super bullish. So this hour looks pretty decent. Yep. So 29.05 looks like a good little bounce area. Now I wanted to, earlier whenever I was on the daily, I have a chart on Twitter already, which is the divergence of the RSI, which I talked about in my last video, and it's the ever non-changing view I have in an uptrend. Whenever the RSI of a lower low is the same as a higher low, then that is divergence. Or divergence. There's no E in there, except in the end. Ramble. So it was down here to around 46. So it was breaking that point. You can go to the 4 hour. And that same low. Divergence. Hike. Divergence. Hike. Divergence. And already it's bouncing. So if it closes above that, there's so many 4 hour charts or 4 hour time frames left to happen before the market open. There's like 3 at least. So need to see where it chops in this zone. But if it gets, like I said in my last video, I don't like using the middle line as the almighty, this, if it crosses this, it's pivoting up, whatever. I would say 29.18 is what you're looking to bypass before, obviously the high of day, before we can say, okay, we're going back up. It's going to be fine. It could probably bounce right in here, right down into here, and do a falling wedge. Or it could break down. I mean, the RSI looks decent. It still looks good for an uptrend. Setting lower. Well, here. Let's go right to here. So this is not divergent yet. It is a, although it may have been at some point. But if it closes above, it won't be technically. So it's set a higher low from here. And the RSI is higher. So it's not divergent. That's a whole thing. I think we're hiking up. I mean, this is 15 minutes behind, by the way. If you're wondering why it's not 29.12 or whatever the heck it is right now, instead of, and it's 29.08, it's because delayed. I guess TradingView runs 15 minutes behind unless you're on the ultra paid plan and not just the pro plan. So I'm not paying that much for 15 minutes of difference. Okay. Oh, cool. I have 5 viewers. Just looking at that now. If you guys have any questions, by the way, please feel free to ask. And I'll try to look at my chat a little more so I can say, hey, what do you need? What can I help you with? Honestly, no, it's too deep. I was gonna say a head and shoulders, but you know, it could be a triple bottom. I haven't seen one of those in a while. 3 lower lows. Get out of the way, please. Okay. 3 lower lows, ever inclining RSI, but still, I mean, the RSI, it's been such deep cuts these past 3 days. Right here on the first, right here on the second, boom on the third, and then boom on the fifth. Deep cut. All in order to hike this RSI down and bounce inevitably or downtrend. You can't say until the chart says. But yes, obviously we're bouncing. I don't play futures. It's just one of those things I'm not into yet. So you get into even the 30-minute. If you're trading futures, that is. See how it matches? Isn't that weird? A level. 2909, 2909. So over 2909, you will definitely see 2913. 5 minutes. Ooh. See, this is why I hate going any lower than 30 minutes. This right here, this whole little, get rid of these lines so you can see clearly. This inclining RSI, it's just garbage. I mean, then it'll what? Drop down to right about there, 2900.5, and no, I'm sorry. It would drop down to here around 2894, and then make a divergence. No, 5 minute divergence is dumb. I don't pay attention to it. I mean, even on day trading, it's just like you gotta have a channel already on that 5 minute. This 1 in an hour and 45 minutes worth of garbage in 5 minutes is not enough. You need this kind of time frame. See how the RSI is declining as we're rising. Failed to hike. It's a drop. So obviously it's a channel top. I don't have anything more for you guys, I believe. I found the 4-hour levels. Just using the closing prices. That's all you gotta do. Made a channel over 29.18. Clear signal going up over 29.31. I mean, we could probably break this channel, but assumably we will break into this area here by morning. Fingers crossed for anybody holding calls, and we will chop BAM back down to one of these areas and make a higher low for once in the past 5 days, and then break out above 29.49. Yep, but I'm still not worried. Not worried until we close below the channel. Have not closed below the channel since January. It's a long time. The RSI is... it's a real easy tool to use. And I've done this before too. And this isn't always effective. I mean, if you're like, hey, RSI closed below this trend line, that's true, but RSI also is level with this line, this low. If it closes above that, good. If it does not, then we can see the 29.84. In fact, we'll probably break below the channel if we can't close above this RSI, which is just a couple centimeters. There we go. 23.35. So if we can't close above that, then yes, we will see lower before we bounce. 51, which is bullish in an uptrend. Halfway point. So, fear not. I agree, Jesse. I feel like buy the dip is still in. This channel, just get rid of all these lines so it's not confusing for anybody. I like to keep my charts nice and clean because when you can't see anything if everything's in the way. Close underneath this channel and then confirm it with another closing. What would probably happen if we closed underneath here. Let's say we close. Yep. Okay, 28.80. Close right there. The next day, we would have to bump our head on resistance. Just be the other side of that. 28.82. No. 4 hour. I don't even know why I have 3 hour on there anymore. Okay, 28.88. Yeah, that's about right. Close below 28.80 range. Bounce up, hit 28.88 and downtrend. That's how that would work. And then we would probably use this middle line here. I mean, this is a whole, never mind. This is a whole long chart and it's a whole thing. But we would find a level here on a weekly, assumably. And once we hit this RSI, 18, just about, then we would bounce. So we would be downtrending, making the cup and handle that I thought we might have been making. Boom. And then really take off later in the year when Trump stops tweeting about China. Oh. I agree. Markets do not usually make tops during off-hour sessions. Markets also do not start a new uptrend or downtrend after a Fed speech, or I'm sorry, during a Fed speech. You know, the last 2 days here, the first and second, people were losing their minds thinking, hey, it's done. You know, let's go back to test the lows, right? No. Then we got this big engulfing candle because we were just going back to test support. The chart will tell you what you need to know if you use channels and levels and RSI. That's all I use. I have an MA200 over here. Don't use it. I don't use it. You can use it. I don't. It's the way I do things. It just works in every scenario. If it breaks below this, it's going lower. If it breaks above this, it's going higher. Easy. Bollinger Bands. Never use them anymore. But if you can make money using them, go ahead. Volume. Another thing I only use sparingly because this rally has been the lowest volume since yada yada da da da, and we're definitely gonna get red spikes again. Wrong. We set new all-time highs on low volume, quote unquote. So closing prices, channels, RSI. That's it. Alright, I've been rambling on for about 8 minutes now for no reason. If you have any questions, you have my Twitter, and good luck out there. Just play the levels. We'll see how we open up in the morning. 29.18, that's the level to beat. Nope, that's 29, right? Boom. There we go. And for you futures traders, zoop. Need to close a 30 over the 29.09 level. And you can probably see 29.13 with ease. Alrighty. Alright. No more questions. I'm out of here.